Hey, this is Pastor John, and I am so excited that you are joining us for Living the Five. You know, this is going to be an exciting little study that we do together as a church because over the next few weeks, we're going to look at 5 core values that help define who we are here at Stillwater Church. These core values, they come from the Bible, and they help us understand more about who Jesus is calling us to be, both as individuals and as a church. You know, when I was about 8 years old, my family went on a road trip. Now, this is back before the days of GPS and all that stuff. And so we had an atlas. And this atlas had a map of the entire United States, but it also had individual maps of each state. We were going from Illinois, where we lived, to Disney World in Florida. And I remember sitting there in the car with my sister, trying to figure out each different map of each different state and how they connected to understand where my parents were going, because I was convinced they were going to get us badly lost. Well, it ends up they didn't get us lost, but I learned a lot about maps on that trip. You know, a map is a great thing. It's a very helpful tool, but only if you know where you want to go. If you don't know where you want to go, a map's not going to help you out at all. I love the saying that says you're not lost if you don't care where you are. I mean, if you don't have a destination in mind, a map is no good. It's useless to you. But if you want to get somewhere specific, a map is really helpful. It leads you on a course towards your goal. If you do make a wrong turn, it helps you get back on the right track. Maps really matter when you know where you want to go. You know, these 5 core values that we're talking about during Living the Five are kind of like a roadmap for our church. Together, they remind us of the best way of following Jesus. They help us to stop getting distracted on the less important things and make sure that we're emphasizing the most important things in our life. And today, we're going to look at the first one, which is you can't do life alone. You can't do life alone. Now, you may be a little stubborn, as I can be at times, and so when somebody says to you, you can't do that, your response is, you better believe I can. Well, certainly, if you want to do life alone, you can figure out a way to pull it off, technically. But you're not designed to do life alone. You see, God created you and me, and He didn't create us to be loners. He created us to be relational. God Himself is relational, and He created us to be relational. And this is more than just attending church. I mean, attending church is a great thing, but in order to have the abundant life that Jesus wants us to have, we've got to be intentionally connecting with others in healthy relationships. Let's dig a little bit deeper and see why this is so important. And to do so, we're going to talk about a very important friendship in the Bible, the friendship between David and Jonathan. You can find this story in the book of 1 Samuel, starting in chapter 19. Here's the situation. There's this guy named Saul, and he's the king over all Israel, and he's really jealous of David because he knows that God has chosen David to be the next king. So Saul keeps looking for opportunities to kill David and remove this threat from his throne. However, Saul has a son named Jonathan, and Jonathan is David's best friend. And eventually, David asks Jonathan for some help. So they come up with this great plan. David decides to skip a celebration dinner in the king's court and to ask Jonathan to make an excuse for David as to why he's not there. If Saul's cool with it, then Jonathan will let David know. But if Saul gets angry, Jonathan will report that back to David. Either way, based on Saul's reaction, David is going to know what Saul's intentions are for him. If David should stick around because it's safe, or if he needs to flee for his life because Saul wanted to kill him there. Now think about this. David had been chosen by God to be king, and he's asking the son of the current king to help him. It would have been totally understandable for Jonathan to lie to David and to have him killed. After all, if David is out of the way, Jonathan has a clear path to the throne. He's next in line after his father Saul, right? But he doesn't do that. Listen to what he says in chapter 20, starting in verse 12. Then Jonathan said to David, By the Lord, the God of Israel, I will surely sound out my father by this time the day after tomorrow. If he is favorably disposed towards you, I will not send you word and will let you know. But if my father is inclined to harm you, may the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if I do not let you know and send you away safely. So see, the two friends make a covenant with each other that they will keep this promise. And the next day, they go through with their plan. And sure enough, when Saul finds out that David is missing, he's furious. He flies into a rage. Jonathan keeps his promise. He warns David that Saul is truly out to get him. Listen to how the story ends. The Bible says this: David got up from the south side of the stone and bowed down before Jonathan 3 times, his face to the ground. They kissed each other and wept together, but David wept the most. Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord, saying, 'The Lord is witness between you and me, between your descendants and my descendants forever.'" Wow. What an amazing example of friendship. Hopefully you'll never be on the run from an angry king, or for that matter, anybody who's as angry as Saul. But you know, the principle is still the same. You can't do life alone. David knew he couldn't do life alone, and we all need Jonathans in our lives to help us, to encourage us, to keep us safe. And we also need to be Jonathans for other people. It's a responsibility that we have. In the Bible, 1 Peter 5:8 says that the devil, our enemy, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Here's what I've learned from watching some National Geographic. It's not that lion that you see that is so dangerous. No, he's not the one who's going to get you. You see the videos of the antelope who are there, and they're together in herds. It's not usually the antelope who's in the herd who gets picked off. It's the one who's out by himself. And it's not necessarily the lion he can see, it's the one who's hiding in the grass, waiting for him. The lion's best tactic is to hide and to isolate the antelope. And the same is true with our enemy Satan. He tries to isolate us so we're not protected, so that we don't have somebody else to hold us accountable, to help us get back on track when we start heading the wrong way. When Satan sees you out there on your own, trying to do life all by yourself, he knows that he's got a great target. And that's not where you want to be. You see, friends, we're stronger when we're together. And just like the antelopes, we need to stick together if we're going to fight Satan off. You can't do life alone. It's not just about avoiding bad decisions, however. It's about living into the best life that God has called us to. Hebrews 10:24 says that we should consider how we can spur one another on towards love and good deeds. You know what a spur is? It's something in a cowboy's boot that he uses to push the horse to move a little bit faster. And God designs us to push each other a little faster and make each other better. Proverbs 27:17 says this: "As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another." It's the same idea. We can't do life alone. It makes me think about the big redwood trees out in California. Some of them are hundreds of feet tall. You'd think that a tree this big would have a root system that goes down into the core of the earth, but you know, it doesn't. Instead, these trees, they interlace their roots with each other. Instead of having roots that grow deep, their roots grow predominantly outward. And so one tree stands beside the other, and their roots interlace with one another. And these majestic trees can grow so tall, but they need each other to stand firm. They wouldn't do nearly as well if they were out there all by themselves. You know, if you want to follow Jesus successfully, you need to surround yourself with people who love you, who care about you, who support you, who you can get your roots in with, so that you can not be standing alone. As a group or a family today, you're going to talk more about this idea, including who you might want to invite into your group or go deeper with on a one-on-one basis. I want to challenge you to really commit to risking having real relationships within your group. Take the risk. It's worth it. Be honest. Be open. You're among friends who care about you, who support you, and who are on this same journey together because just like you, they want to get to know Jesus a little bit better through that. God didn't design you to do life alone, and here at Stillwater, you don't have to.